Don't just live for tomorrow, or just live in yesterday. Just be glad for all you have that's in today. And though you've come through many obstacles.
Hey everyone, Connie here, and welcome to my blind reaction to One Piece, episode 1001. We are here, our first episode past 1000. And yeah, last episode left off on a pretty hype note, giving us all of the Straw Hat crew, showing their pasts, showing their just defining moments, and then closing off with all of them standing together, ready to take on the enemies. It was the perfect shot to end on. It just made sense for a 1000th episode. So I'm really happy they chose to do that. Now, we move on, and one thing I do know is that the opening is back to what it was before. And that is disappointing, because as I've been saying, the opening needs to change. Like, it's well past the point where the opening has just become stale, I guess you would say. We're at that point where we need a new opening. And again, I thought the 1000th episode would have been a fantastic point to do it at. But no, they just did a remake of the original opening, which was great, which was awesome. But we need a new, like, full-time new opening. And we need it soon. Like, really soon. Because this opening, it's not really relevant anymore, I feel. Again, as I've stated in past reactions, past episodes, we've now seen pretty much everything in it. There's nothing more to cover. And it's just like, it feels old now. It feels old, it feels past its time, and it just needs to go away. We need a new opening. So I am disappointed by this. And again, it's a great opening. Again, as I've stated in the past, it's a great opening. I love the opening, but we do need a new one. You can only keep an opening for so long before it starts to go stale, and this one needs to be changed at this point, because it's gone stale. But as for the episode, I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know what to expect. Luffy wants to go topside up onto the roof to join the fight with Kaido and Jack and all of them, taking on the Minks and the Akazaya 9 and everything. But in order to do so, he's first got to fight his way past the likes of King and Queen and all the others down there, which is not going to be easy. So we're going to kind of have to see what's going to happen. But since we did leave off with all the Straw Hats standing together, I assume, like, we're going to, like, showcase all of them, like, really getting into the action now. Because, yeah, some of them have been involved to different degrees. But in a lot of cases, last episode really just started to show a couple of the characters really joining the fight. Characters like Nami and Robin and Jinbei, who hadn't really been as active in the action yet. They just started to join us. So I'm hoping that we now get to see everyone taking part in the action going forward. But the battle against the likes of King and Queen is going to be extremely difficult. And they're not even the only ones having to worry about things, because we also have Yamato still trying to convince Shinobu and Momonosuke that he's there to help. We have others on the outside who are getting ready to join in the fray, like Sasaki, and so much more happening. It's a lot. So we're going to get into this. We're going to hope for the best and see how this episode fares, especially coming off of episode 1000. Because it's like you have to follow up the 1000th episode of One Piece. It's like I almost feel like they have to keep the hype going. Because if they don't, it's going to just pale in comparison and not be as good for the viewers. So they have to keep the hype going to some degree. And that includes with the animation, the big moments, the phenomenal voice acting. I expect the best. With how the series has been handling this, I expect the best. And I'm excited. So we're going to get into this, see what it has in store for us. Let's do it. So when the screen fades to black, pause this redirect and go to the description below. Follow the link to the reaction, and after you watch it, come back here to the redirect and resume play. Because after it fades to black and then fades back in, everything from that point forward will be my afterthoughts and will contain spoilers to the episode. So, that being said, thank you so much for tuning in, and I will see you at the reaction. And we are back, and we'll begin with spoilers in 3, 2, 1, now. So, first off, I want to apologize for the darker lighting and everything. I forgot to open the curtain before I started recording this. And honestly, it's not like super bright out there anyway, so it probably wouldn't make like a massive difference. Because these curtains are very thin as it is, so. But either way, this was a good follow-up to the 1000th episode. Not the best it could have been. I was expecting more with the Straw Hats themselves. Instead, we progressed some other stuff. And even just touched on some things that I really did not expect to be brought up. Such as the stuff with Diaz Drake. We did get to see some good stuff with the Straw Hats, at least some of them, notably Zoro and Jinbei. But most of the really hype stuff here centered around just the animation and Luffy fighting specifically. Until the very end when Diaz Drake joins in the fight as well. Then it's Luffy and Drake. So Luffy, Zoro, Jinbei, they're all just fighting the soldiers and the giants as they have been. We get some flashbacks to Thriller Bark, but the big meat of this episode, really the focus of this episode, is on Diaz Drake. So Drake is hanging out with Hawkins, and he suggests to him, you know, it's the perfect time to betray Kaido. It's the perfect time for betrayal. So he tells Hawkins, it's like, you're not even here because you want to be. You were kind of forced into this situation thanks to Apu's betrayal. It's like, you can help me here. And Hawkins is just like, there's only a 1% chance that this certain dude's gonna die, or is gonna live past today. Who is it? We don't know. It's Drake, we find out. But who's who, after receiving a message from Queen about the Tobiropo, or not Queen, who sent the message? Shit. No, it was King. Sorry. King sent the message to the Tobiropo. It's like, I know you were doing this thing about catching Yamato, but we have to put that aside for now. Shit's going down. Let's actually do shit about this. So Who's Who goes to Drake and is like, I need you for something. Come with me. We're going to take down a traitor. And he's like, let's go meet up with Queen. And so it's like, oh, of course, Queen is the traitor, I guess. Or maybe he's saying he's the traitor, or it's unclear. So they go to meet up with Queen, and yeah, they seemingly betray him, but then it's revealed that it was all a ruse because the traitor is Drake himself, and Who's Who and Queen had found out about it. So, knowing that Drake was going to betray them and that Drake was just on the verge of turning against them, they attack him. He uses a grenade to be able to escape and then helps Luffy take down the giants, and before proposing that they join forces. There's a lot to dissect there. First off, this episode shows that Drake had learned about Luffy from Kobe. Well, sort of. Obviously, Drake already knew about Luffy from Shabandi and everything, but Kobe really just kind of hammered it in for him and really just, like, allowed him to understand how much Kobe looks up to Luffy and how much Luffy just encourages that kind of mindset and hopeful ideology in people. So seeing Luffy in action here allowed him to see it firsthand and to think back to when Kobe basically fanboyed over Luffy in front of him. It's a really nice touch because it once again reaffirms Drake as being a spy for the Marines and everything, but also shows once again Kobe's pure-hearted, like, admiration for Luffy, and how even that's affecting others within the Marines. It's pretty awesome to see. The second thing to note about this all is with Drake wanting to align with Luffy, even just for now, that's now the second supernova, the second of the worst generation, who has proposed an alliance with Luffy after Law. Like, Kid has worked with Luffy on a couple occasions, but they've never actually formed an alliance, even just a temporary one. They've just kind of worked alongside each other. Not really coincidentally, but just because their goals aligned. Law was the first one of them to actually directly propose an alliance. And so now we see that the same is happening with Drake. And Drake is not just a member of the worst generation. He's also, of course, a Marine. He is also a Tobiropo member. Or I guess technically former Tobiropo member now. Probably been kicked out. But it's like, Drake kind of has even a little more going for him. Though, to be fair, Law also was a warlord. But still, it's like, there's a lot to Drake as a character that we're really starting to get a feel for. And I really like that. I like how with Law joining forces with Luffy and all, we got to learn more about him as a character. So now maybe we're going to do the same with Drake. Maybe we're going to find out more about him. And I would be all for that, because honestly, I feel that the Supernovas are one of the least expanded upon groups of characters in this series that need to be expanded upon. Like, we've seen enough of them. Like, even characters we've seen a lot of, like, in this case, Scratchman Apu, Basil Hawkins and all. It's like we've seen them, but we don't actually know much about them, like, at all. We don't know much about Yarouge. We don't know much about Jewelry Bonnie. And it's disappointing because they're the worst generation, along with Blackbeard. They're supposed to be, like, these huge rookies who made this giant name for themselves in this new era and rose to the top quicker than anyone, and we don't know enough about them as a whole, or as just for most of them. Like, we only know a couple of them, and it's a little disappointing. I feel like there's more that could be done with these characters, and hopefully with having Law become a strong ally to Luffy and them, and now having the same happen with Drake, maybe we'll get more of that with Drake too, going forward. And maybe we'll start to see more about other characters in the future. But it's like, I feel like we need more of these supernovas to have notable roles and more of character to them. I just want to know more about them, like outside of just the most basic amount of stuff that you could have, because that's all we've got so far. So I'm very hopeful with what they're doing with Drake here, with him aligning with Luffy and them. This is something I very much did not see coming, but I am very glad that it happened. Now we also see Drake's power. Now obviously we know, again, he's a supernova. He's a member of the former member of the Toby Ropo now. So yeah, we know he's going to be powerful as hell. That's not a surprise. But seeing him take out one of these giants that have been such a problem, with the same amount of ease as Luffy in his Gear 4th Bounce Man form, that's impressive. That is genuinely impressive. That he's that strong. So I have to give the credit where it's due there. And Diaz Drake is definitely a character I've wanted to know about the more we learn about him, because it's like we find out straight away on Shabandi during that arc that he was at least a former Marine at that time, because Kizaru specifically referred to him as such. So we think he's a former Marine turned pirate. But then later on, we find out more about him, and we find out he's actually still a Marine undercover and everything. And it's like, it's just, the more we learn about him, the more fascinating of a character he is. And so I definitely want to see even more with him. And again, with all these other characters. I don't want to just see them in action. I want to learn about them. I want to learn about Scratchman Apu. I want to learn about Basil Hawkins. And again, Jewelry Bonnie, Erouge, all of them. I want to actually know more about them. Not just see them in action, not just see them being cool or badass or in fights or whatnot. I want to actually see them, like, get expanded upon. So hopefully we'll start to see that more. I would really enjoy that. But we also see that there is some now, I guess you could say, infighting with the bad guys. I mean, now again, Diaz Drake has kind of betrayed them already. He's not really on their side anymore, but what happens if Basil Hawkins does take Drake's words to heart and does end up betraying Kaido as well? What happens if something else goes down? What if another member of the Toby Robo? What if Who's Who actually is a traitor? And this was just like a ruse in a way. That would be interesting. There's so many opportunities that have been opened up with this, and I'm very interested to see if they explore any of them. But again, overall, this was a very good episode. I just wish they did more with the actual Straw Hats than just having Luffy, Zoro, and Jinbei have time to shine. And again, I love Luffy, Zoro, and Jinbei, and I love them getting their time to shine. They did great in this episode, but I want to see the others really have a time to shine too. So it's like, I felt like they were going to go off of it with all of them really getting to shine in this episode. But instead, Diaz Drake comes in. And again, that's probably where the manga wins, so it's more Oda's fault. No. I'm fine with it. It's okay. It was just my expectations that made me think or want something else to happen. I'm fine with it. And again, I like what they're doing with Drake, what Oda is doing with Drake here. So I'm good with it. But tell me in the comments below, what did you think of this episode of One Piece? We are now into the 1000s officially, having surpassed episode 1000 itself and moving on to a whole new stage of this series. Tell me your thoughts down below, and thank you so much once again for tuning in. For now, I'm Connie, and I'm signing off. See you all next time.